Hi, my name is Galen J. Burnside, and we are back with another episode of Changing the Narrative, a series focused on giving voices to the voiceless. Today, we are filming with Melissa Bailey. She is a survivor of domestic violence and sexual assault. She has turned what has happened to her into positivity, and she spreads awareness of domestic violence, sexual assault, and body positivity. Stay tuned for today's episode as she talks about her survival story. Thank you. What's one of your favorite ways to relax and unwind after a long day?
I would say it depends on the long day. Sometimes I need to be near the water. It calms me, it recharges me, um, and it reminds me that there's a whole big world out there, and that I'm a small little piece of it, but that it can always be worse, and it can always be bigger. So it kind of helps ground me. Um, And then you have those days where you are just angry and frustrated and mad and bitter, and you just want to eat some nasty, slutty food in bed, butt naked, watching mindless reality TV, people making fools of themselves, or something funny where you just want to laugh hysterically. So I would say, depending on the difficulty of the day, would depend on how I'd like to end it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have any hobbies or interests that you're passionate about?
I love music. It has been a passion of mine since I found my voice in fifth grade. Um, my music teacher told me that I could sing. I had no idea. And I started feeling more confident in myself and singing more, and then got a new chorus teacher who wasn't very happy with the riffs and the expressiveness of my voice. And because it wasn't classically trained, basically told me I wasn't good enough. So I developed a fear of the stage and singing. I'm a minor, like a fine arts minor. So I've always been on stage. It's been my thing, but I always fear it. Um, so I would say that, but this whole body positivity journey that I'm on, I would say is my biggest right now. I've never been comfortable in my skin. And the more that I get out there and the more that I start meeting other people, realizing I'm not the only one, lifting other people up, it fills my soul like it's never been filled before. And it makes me want more.
Okay. What's a fun fact about you that most people might not know?
Um, Contrary to how I may look on the outside, where I tend to look very put together and organized and all of the things, I'm really just a goofy goober. I dance funny dances in the kitchen. I'll start making up my own words. I will haul off and just bite my partner for no reason. I'm a little menace. And I like to have fun in that because life is too short. So I think a lot of people, until they really get to know me, think that I might be a little stuck up or arrogant, and it's really just me being really shy because I actually am very, 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 I'm very shy. It's hard for me to talk to people up front unless they approach me first. So a lot of times people think that I'm stuck up, and really it's just that I'm terrified inside. Um, yeah, I like dancing in the rain. I like doing all the funny, quirky things that make people go, but then they want to join in. I'm that kid.
Who is someone that inspires you and why?
I would have to say my mother. Um, And I would say that because it's almost as though we kind of grew up together. She had me at a young age and had dealt with a lot of different struggles growing up and a lot of trauma that was not really resolved or dealt with. And as she grew and matured, I was growing and maturing. We both learned a lot about each other and ourselves in that experience. But she's my ride or die, and she's my best friend.
I love that. If you could travel anywhere in the world, where would you go and why?
Take me to Turks and Caicos. I want the clear water. I want the food. I want the culture. I want the experiences, the energy surrounding all of those islands. I don't know. I want it all. It's first on my bucket list.
Love that. Are you nervous to tell your story and why?
I am terrified to tell my story. Um, I think it being my first time in telling my story, like legit first time telling my story, um, with no time limits or restraints. There's so much. And when you start unpacking, sometimes you start processing out loud things that maybe you hadn't thought about before. So I think part of me is nervous to talk because this is the first time speaking it publicly out loud, and something might come up that elicits a very, very big emotion. Um, so I think that's kind of one of the biggest pieces. I think another piece that makes me so nervous is even though my children are older and even though I have not seen, you know, any of my abusers in a long time, there's still that fear there of upsetting them. You know, as you go through your healing journey, you can feel invincible to a certain point and you can get back all that strength, but there's still that underlying fear of making someone upset and someone retaliating or saying something hateful or horrible or doing something to your kids. So there's definitely that fear there, but I refuse to live in fear anymore, and this is me taking that power back.
Hello, everybody. My name is Galen J. Burnside. I am here with Tamika Lassane at Level Up Hair Salon, and I want her to tell you about herself and about her business.
Well, as he said, my name is Tamika Lassane, and we're here at Level Up Hair Salon. And I have been in the industry for 28 years. I've been teaching cosmetology for 12 years, and I just love the industry. I have a passion for this industry, and this is all I know. I promote healthy hair. Here at Level Up, we are diverse with natural hair, chemicals, colors, relaxers, cuts. We have stylists that braid hair, that does retwists for natural hair. Um, and we just want it to be a place in Charlotte where the community can come and get everything done in a one-stop place with everything you need, your makeup done, your hair, nails, natural hair, whatever you need to do to beautify yourself. We would love for you to come join us at Level Up Hair Salon.
And I just wanted to personally say thank you so much for everything that you've done for my survivor of domestic violence. I really appreciate you taking time out of your day to do this. And again, I just want to say thank you for not only just doing what you did for her, but making her feel beautiful, making her feel confident. I can tell how happy she is. And that's something that's needed, I feel, with survivors, is that we so often forget to take care of us. And that was what today was about. So I just wanted to say thank you so much for that.
You are so welcome, Gayle. And it was an honor for doing that for her. I really do appreciate you giving me the opportunity to do this because it is what I do at the end of the day. That's my satisfaction and my joy, bringing the beauty out of others and making them feel good and confident about themselves.
Yes, and stay tuned. This is only one of many to come. Can you share your story with us? How did your relationship start, and at what point did you begin to notice signs of domestic violence?
Mm. So this is a little multifaceted because I'm actually a three-time survivor of DV. Um, my first time was with the father of my children. And growing up and feeling self-conscious and uncomfortable in my body, when this beautiful human showed interest in me, I was like, what? Me? Are you kidding me? Um, And there was so much love bombing, making me feel like I was the only one. And then the isolation started. And that seems to be how it's been starting with all of them, is that isolation piece and wanting to spend all their time with me. And it makes you feel good because you're like, oh my gosh, like I'm so important that they want to spend all of their time with me. And really, it's just a control factor. But you don't know when you're in it because you just feel special. And then the abuse continued, and I ended up getting pregnant with twins in an abusive relationship where I was in a completely different state because I wanted to make him happy. So I moved to his hometown. And his mother was abusive, and we lived with her for a while. So the two of them, her affecting me emotionally, down to threatening to barbecue my cat, to him abusing me physically and sexually while in her home under her roof. And I know that she knew. For that particular relationship, it was my kids that gave me the strength. They were the ones that made me realize there was more to life. And they were the ones that made me see and give me the strength to know that I didn't want them to ever grow up in this world thinking that it's okay to treat anyone like that. But also that I didn't want them to grow up thinking it was okay to be treated like that, because men get abused too. Domestic violence doesn't have a picture, a face, a race, a gender. I would say each time that I've dealt with domestic violence, it was my village that helped me notice the signs first. And then it was me that had to come to the realization that I deserved better. Yeah.
Yes. Well, speaking of signs, what were some of the first warning signs or red flags that you experienced in your relationship?
I would say first it was, you're going to go out of the house wearing that. And it was controlling what I wore, down to either making me cover up depending on who was around, or making me wear less depending on who was around. And then it was the isolation and keeping me from my family, or making me feel bad when I would want to be with my friends or my family. And then it was financially. I had no access to the bank account. I couldn't have gotten away if I wanted to. And then it was the physical stuff that started, where it was, if you wouldn't have made me that mad, it wouldn't have happened. So I thought if I did better, then it would happen less. And we know that's not true. So it's just this cascading, all the things that kind of all compiled until one day you just are done.
How did the abuse impact your daily life, mental health, and sense of self during that time?
My daily life was mixed between covering bruises and pretending like I was okay when I just wanted to die. Putting on that face in front of the people that are closest to you so that they don't know, or putting on an outfit and feeling like you finally feel like you, to turn around and notice you have bruises all over your arms and you can't wear that. And yeah.
Take your time. What were the challenges you faced in recognizing and admitting to yourself that you were in an abusive relationship?
Ooh. I think for me, it made me so mad because it was 3 times. Every time I got out, I would be gravitating towards someone else that fed that sense of self, because I had such horrible self-esteem and such horrible self-worth. So when people show you that they have that intention and that understanding and that interest in you, you gravitate towards them. And I think I was mad more than anything because I kept allowing it to happen. So I was beating myself up.
Mm. How did body shaming and the struggles with your self image impact your sense of self worth before and during the abusive relationship?
I never felt comfortable in my skin. Um, I dealt with a lot of body shaming growing up. My stepdad, we're close now, but he was not a kind individual. And I grew up in Vermont. It's land of the Caucasian individuals, and when we're younger, we're even more petite for the most part. So I was a thicker individual, and I didn't fit in. I didn't fit in being the little brown speck and then the spotted brown speck at 8 when I started developing my skin disorder. So it was like one thing after the other. I just wanted to feel loved. And when you come from a home life where you don't feel loved and you don't feel heard and you don't feel respected and everything is monitored down to what you eat, you start to realize that maybe you're not worth all of those things. You gravitate towards that comfort. The crappy partners you gravitate towards because that's what you're comfortable with. You don't know anything else. And when all you do is grow up seeing dysfunctional relationships, how do you know what healthy is? You think you know because it feels good here, but it's not.
Do you feel the negative body image played a role in either entering into or staying in the abusive relationship?
Oh my gosh, yes. Um, I developed an eating disorder 15 years old. I was bulimic and anorexic. I got down to a little less than 100 pounds at 15. And then ended up meeting this amazing human. I call her my sissy to this day, and that woman saved me. My best friend, she noticed it even when my parents didn't. But then, as we know, if you don't get proper mental health treatment and therapy, that stuff always reverts back if you don't have the healthy coping tools. So it went from anorexia and bulimia and binging and purging. I would eat 4 McDonald's meals in one sitting just to get comfort. And I would start overeating. Food was still comfort. I didn't know any better. So I went from binging and purging to then overeating. And then my weight blossomed. But I love you this way. I love you this way. Encouraging the bad eating habits and the behavior, because if I stay thick, then I'm more likely to stay with them because I feel crappier about me. It's all about control. It's all about control. So I can honestly say that if I felt better about myself, if I had gotten the mental health treatment that I needed when I was younger, and if I had had the support through family that I needed when I was younger, I would have known my worth. And I would have been more likely to not get into that situation. Not to say that it would never have happened, because it happens no matter how educated you are. But had I had more here and known more here and had more self-worth, maybe I would have seen the signs sooner.
Having battled an eating disorder since you were 15, did your relationship with food and control over your body affect how you perceived control within your abusive relationship?
It was the only thing I could control. It was the only thing I could control. So in those relationships, and I noticed that, even when they weren't abusive relationships, when things got tumultuous, when things got rough, when they got heavy, when it got difficult, I punished myself with food. I still struggle with it, and I am in therapy regularly. It's like alcoholism. Once you have an eating disorder, it doesn't ever go away. It's always there. You battle it every single day. Am I going to allow myself to eat, or am I going to punish myself with food? Oh, I messed up this particular thing. I'm hard on myself. I don't deserve to eat today. You punish yourself with all of the things that you were punished with for so long because it's what you know, and you have to literally unlearn those habits.
In what ways, if any, did the abusive relationship impact or trigger your eating disorder?
There were definitely times when I couldn't do anything right to save my life. I tried to keep the house as clean as I could. I tried to give them sex whenever they wanted. I tried to be explorative with the sex whenever they wanted. I did stuff when I didn't want to. I tried things I didn't want to. I did all the right things. And it wasn't enough. So after a while, when you try everything, and no matter what you do, or how early you get up, or how much you cook dinner, or how much sex you give, it's never enough. I'm not worthy. I deserve to be in this relationship. I deserve to get hit because I can't do anything right. And after years of enduring that, it literally reprograms your brain.
Very true. Do you think your struggles with body shaming and the eating disorder made you more vulnerable to the abuse, or did they create conditions that allowed the abuse to persist?
I would say yes to both. I feel like that made me more vulnerable to the abuse because there were times when I would make myself go multiple days, if not a week, without eating. I didn't fight back as hard. And there were times when I felt like I was a little stronger. So I felt like I could be a little bit more sassy and push back a little more, but that's what I was beating harder. So sometimes it's almost like your brain tells you when you eat, you get hit more. So when you don't eat, you're weaker. You don't fight back as hard. You don't make him as mad. So I would say both. It made me very vulnerable. But it also continued and persisted because I'm a sassy individual deep down. Even at my core and stripped away of everything, I'm a very sassy individual.
How did your abuser use your body image or eating disorder struggles against you, if at all?
Um, there would be times when I would be ridiculed for what I ate, shamed for what I ate, shamed for not eating enough. I think it played a huge role in it continuing. I think sometimes people who love you say that if they keep harping on the thing over and over and over again, you'll stop doing it. But really, what they don't realize is that these particular things are illnesses. This isn't something that you can just stop. This isn't something that just goes away. It's not something that you can just wake up one day and say, you know what, I'm going to eat healthy meals. I'm not going to eat carbs. I'm going to run 5 miles a day and everything's going to be Gucci. Like, it doesn't work that way because the minute that you have a bad day, you're right back at square one again. So I, through diving into therapy, realized I wasn't just punishing myself with food. I was punishing myself with love too.
Can you describe a specific incident that became the turning point for you where you decided enough was enough?
I always get really emotional when people ask me this one. I have beautiful 20-year-old identical twin boys, and they are my whole world. And when I tell you that those boys saved me, they saved me. They were not planned, but they were planned. And they were 2 weeks old. And I hadn't had a shower in a week. I was tired. I was breastfeeding twins. I had a partner who was useless. And I just wanted to let the water run on my body and to feel clean. So I asked him to watch his children while I took a quick shower. And the answer was no, I'm home all day. All I have to do is take care of sleeping babies. Why can't I just wash myself? Or take them in there with you? I work hard. This is my day off. I remember he was watching an episode of The Simpsons. He was obsessed with The Simpsons. And I remember getting so mad. It was the first time I'd ever been mad because I didn't ask for much. You worked at a convenience store you barely provided. I worked up until I gave birth while you had no job. I'm asking you to take care of the people that you helped bring into this world, and you're telling me I can't? So I remember picking up his VCR. I remember raising it up over my head and smashing it down on the ground. I smashed it so hard, and then for good measure, I stomped on it. I just wanted to take a shower. I wasn't asking to go out for a night drinking with my girlfriends. I wasn't asking for anything that wouldn't be a necessity of health after just giving birth. And he moved faster than I've ever seen him move before. And he grabbed my throat and he pinned me up against the window with Reuben in my arms. And I remember holding on to him for dear life. I didn't want to drop my baby. I had to protect my baby. And just as I was about to lose consciousness, he let go. Just as I was about to drop my baby boy, he let go. And that was it. I didn't ever want my beautiful, pure baby boys to ever grow up thinking that it was okay to treat anyone like that. But more importantly, it wasn't okay to be treated like that. I wanted better for them. So I did better. And I got out.
Thank you, everybody, for staying with us so far. We're going to take a break and give Melissa time to compose herself, get a little beat in, and we'll be right back. And we're back, and we're going to continue on with our interview with Melissa. How have your experiences with body shaming, eating disorders, and domestic violence shaped your healing process?
I had to get real with myself. I think in order to build something, sometimes you got to break it down. So I had to get real with myself. I had to get real with my insecurities. I had to get real with the fact that I had a lot of healing that I had to do, and that healing started from childhood. And we can't just sweep stuff under the rug and think that it's just because we're not feeling it that day or because we're having a good day that all of that crap just goes away. It's still there, and it festers. And then you end up with really good people that come into your life, and you're not ready to receive them because you're not healed. So I would say it shaped a lot. I had to be real with my story of abuse. I had to name it. I had to forgive not only my abusers, but I had to forgive myself for putting myself in that situation, because we blame ourselves. Why didn't I get out? How did I miss those red flags and not see those warning signs? What was wrong with me? I know better. It shaped me into a much stronger individual in my convictions, what I will tolerate and what I will not tolerate. But I literally had to break myself down all the way and rebuild.
Have you found any connections between healing from the eating disorder and healing from the trauma of domestic violence?
Oh, yes. A big one is love. So I still struggle with eating disorders and that body positivity journey and, self-worth, which kind of stems into that whole domestic violence piece. And I punish myself with things that are good for me because I don't feel like I'm worthy of those good things. So I punish myself with food. If I mess up, or if I make my partner angry, or if I feel like I don't do well enough throughout the day, I don't deserve to eat. I still struggle with that to this day. And And then you kind of get into the DV side of things, and you find pieces of yourself kind of tucked away that you never knew were there. And then it's about restructuring and trying to figure out how to put all those pieces back together to then make this new being that's not riddled with trauma, but it's more like a rebirth. And that's scary, because then you have to actually be willing to accept the good things, because as you grow, you welcome more good in. But if you're not healed, you push all the good away. So there were lots of times where there were some amazing people that I met in my life, but because they treated me so well, I thought it was creepy, it was weird, and I pushed them away because I didn't feel like I was worthy. I didn't know that at the time. But the same thing that I did with food, I was doing with people that were healthy for me. I was pushing them away. And it wasn't until I got into therapy and really dug deep that I realized that it was a worthiness piece for me. The worthiness piece was with food. The worthiness piece was with love. And it really centered around that self-worth. I had to figure that out. And I still struggle every day. And sometimes things that have nothing to do with self-worth somehow seem to trickle back to self-worth in one way, shape, or form. But I'm getting better every day.
So before we get into this next question, I have to read this disclaimer. We understand and respect that domestic violence affects individuals of all races and backgrounds, and every survivor's story is important. Our intention is not to diminish any experiences, but to highlight the broader spectrum of those affected. With that being said, as a woman of color, how do you perceive the predominant portrayal of domestic violence survivors as Caucasian females? Do you believe this impacts the experiences of other women of color or other marginalized groups in being taken seriously?
You look in TV shows and you look at movies, and a majority of the times when it comes to people that are actually labeled domestic violence situations, they're Caucasian females. And when you can't self-identify with someone who has an issue, or a struggle, you don't know what to name it or what to call it. How do you self-identify? How can you say, yes, this is happening to me, when it's not actually seen? It's like, how can you speak Spanish when no one's ever taught you? How? So when you grow up, and that's like me with my skin disorder, growing up and not seeing anyone with my skin disorder, I didn't feel beautiful because I couldn't self-identify with anyone that people labeled as beautiful. Same thing goes for situations of domestic violence and sexual assault. When you don't see anyone talking about it that looks like you, it's not a thing. So then what do? If it's not that, it has to be you, right? So then you internalize it more and make it feel like you're doing it to yourself, or that it's a thing about you, or that it's a mistake that you're making. When no, it's domestic violence, but no one talks about it. Because no one talks about it, you can't name it.
That is so true. What steps do you think can be taken to change the narrative around domestic violence to ensure more inclusive support and representation for women of color and other marginalized groups?
And I think we need to stop glorifying it. I think we glorify domestic violence. We put it in TV and movies, and you have these people that are in these DV situations, and then they just leave and they get out and everything's fine and great. Sometimes it's not safe to just leave. Sometimes it's more dangerous to just get up and leave. You have to come up with a plan. If you don't come up with a plan, you're in more danger. So why don't we see more of that? Why don't we see more people talking about making plans? Why don't we see more people showing people how to get resources? Oh, I talked to my best friend and my best friend helped me get out, or yes, and this great police officer saved me. Like, no, bro, that's not the reality of the situation. It's not. I think we stop glorifying it and making it a real thing and actually having people talk about it. Talk about it in the school system. When have you ever heard people talk about domestic violence in schools? You don't. And how many of those children are actually at home dealing with DV situations in that moment? If we talked about it, we could save lives even on this level, but we don't. So I would say glorifying it and then having those difficult conversations.
As someone who has experienced and overcome so much, What words of affirmation or encouragement would you like to share with others who are currently struggling with an eating disorder, body shaming, or domestic violence? What message would you send to remind them of their strength and self worth?
I would say I tell all of my coaching clients, my friends, my loved ones to take up space. I I tell them regularly to take up space. I actually had to have my partner remind me during all of this to take up space. Sometimes it's easy to say it to other people. Sometimes you need to be reminded to take up your own space. So I would say take up space. You're worthy. Your story is worthy. Your energy is worthy. Your body is worthy. Take up space. Talk about it. We're made to feel like we have to be so small and that we have to blend. But why do we have to blend? We're not made exactly the same. If we were meant to blend, we would all look exactly alike. We're not meant to do that. So I would say take up space more than anything else and that you're worthy.
Last but not least, can you tell us all the amazing things that you have done since leaving your domestic violence situation?
Um, I would say that I am walking in my truth. I am a body positivity influencer now and a model, model coordinator. I've traveled. I've met some amazing people along the way. And I would have to say that my biggest piece of all of that is meeting the people and teaching them to take up space. And I'm doing that through also learning how to take up space. So, um, being able to meet people of different walks of life and have them hear my story, or having people come up to me and ask me if I would mind speaking to their child who has vitiligo because they're so insecure in their own bodies. Or when I help organize a DV event at a college and I've got people bearing their soul that have never actually verbally told anyone that they're a survivor, but that day they told me because they felt safe. When you build that, it gives you life and it's my purpose. So I am a clothing designer now, and my entire line, Fin Fatale Fashion, is inspired in embracing your authentic self, meeting people where they're at, making them feel like the sexiest, most beautiful version without sexualizing them. You can be sexy and not sexualize someone. So being able to meet these individuals and create these garments for them where they're embracing their bodies and loving their bodies. And I've had models walk on my runway wearing bikinis when they've never even worn a bikini in front of their partner by themselves before. When you can do that as a DV survivor, when you can have them embrace their body like that, with something you put your blood, sweat, and tears into, and you can teach them to walk with so much confidence and you can build them up. Oh, there's nothing like that in the whole world, and I don't want to stop. That's my purpose. That's what I'm here to do, and I'm going to continue to do that.
I love that. As we wrap up this powerful and emotional journey, I want to extend my heartfelt gratitude to everyone who made this project possible. Thank you, Melissa, for taking out your time away from your babies to be here. A huge thank you to James, CEO of Goofy Entertainment, our talented videographer, for capturing these important stories with such care and professionalism. A special thank you to Bree Simone of The Brit Styles and Murphy of Murphy's Cuts for your incredible work on my hair and my face. A special thank you to Tamika Lassane of Level Up Hair Salon for your exceptional makeup and hair skills, making our survivor feel pampered and valued. To everyone who tuned in to watch this, thank you for your time and your attention. Your support in sharing and acknowledging these stories is vital in our mission to change the narrative and provide inclusive support for all survivors of domestic violence. Together, we can make a difference. Thank you.